Hi, everybody. It's Alex Caputp-Pearl, UTLA president. It is Monday morning. It is Monday, April 13th, our first Monday back after spring break. I hope you all had a great spring break, got a little bit of rest. I know it's difficult. I know I'm in touch with members all the time, so I know that a bunch of people were working over their spring break, but hopefully you got a little bit of time for rest and rejuvenation. This is a very difficult time, and you've got to make sure that you take time for that. I was able to get a little bit of rest. Our backyard basketball court, which I've had up there for, wow, must be about 10 years. We've always used that court a fair amount, but I can say that we've never used it as much as we've been using it over the last 6 weeks, that backyard basketball court. So good investment 10 years ago. Although I can't say that my jump shot has gotten much better over the last 10 years. So hope you had a good break. As usual, want to start off with, we know that you're going into a week here of work. Whether you're a parent, a student, an educator, we know that you're going into a new week of work here. So we love you and we support you. Public education is such a public good that all of us deserve. And your role in it, whether you're a parent struggling to make sure that your child is doing what they can do at home, or an educator, a UTLA member, doing your best under very trying circumstances and doing great things with young people, or whether you're a student, one of our great youth whom we teach. We love you, we support you, and we're going to make it through this. We will definitely make it through this together. I want to touch on a couple of things today. One is that, as you know, last Wednesday, over the break, we got a side letter agreement with LAUSD on how distance learning is going to happen and remote work is going to happen. Okay? Please read that. It's only 7 pages long. Please read it very carefully. And read it a couple of times, because this is very important. This is what having a union does. Workers who don't have unions, that's unfortunately about 90% of the workforce in the United States. They have great difficulty coming to agreements like this with employers. One of the things that having a union does is it allows us to come to agreements like this with our employer. So please read it. I did a walkthrough of it last Thursday on Facebook Live. We really took a long time. I took an hour to go through every single clause of that agreement because it's so important right now. If you haven't watched that yet, please watch it for a systematic walkthrough of your agreement. Here's mine. You can see it's dog-eared and all ruffled and stuff because I keep on going through it. So hopefully you print it out and you're able to have your dog-eared copy of it as well. We put a lot of time and effort into getting that side letter agreement because it's going to be quite a while that we're under these circumstances. You know that Austin Butner is going to give a talk later this morning at 11 a.m. I would encourage you to watch that. I don't know whether he is going to make an announcement about extending the closure officially on LAUSD's part past May 1st, but I can tell you with 100% assurance that this closure is going beyond May 1st. Frankly, I would be very, very, very surprised if it does not go through the entire rest of the academic year. As you know, Gavin Newsom, Tony Thurmond, others have basically said that the entire year we will have these school closures. That's where this is headed, at least to the end of this year. So watch Butner's address at 11 a.m. As you know, other states have actually started saying that the closures could continue into the fall. So you should expect that these closures are going to be until the end of the academic year. There is going to be a struggle, and you can see this struggle playing out nationally, where Donald Trump is pushing for getting back to normal, getting the economy going again. He's talking about May 1st for that. Public health experts, on the other hand, are lining up nationally and locally to say that that would be an absolutely bad move. to just go back to business as usual on May 1st. It will spike the spread of the virus again. And so we're going to be very involved in that. If Donald Trump pushes and tries to just, open things back up again on May 1st, there's going to be a big fight about it, and we'll be involved in that. We've got to make sure that our health, individually, of us, of our families, of our students, of our society, takes precedence over getting another month, 2 months, or 3 months of business as usual. Okay? So it is a very good MOU, and it's a very good side letter. And I'm going to go over a couple of the questions that have come up about it. I'm not going to be able to go through all of the questions. That's why we have an FAQ, a frequently asked questions part of our website. But I'll go through some of the questions that have been raised right here, and then I'm going to end with a different piece. So first of all, on professional developments, with this side letter, we were not able to cancel the 5 professional developments that the district already had on the books. So the ones that I think you did one of them at the end of March, and then there were 4 of them that we extended the deadline to Friday, April 17th to complete. Those are still on the books. You still have to do those. This side letter was not able to cancel those, okay? What this side letter did, however, is put serious guardrails on professional development. It says that any continuing professional development past those ones that are due on any continuing professional development has to be done in April, right? So it would have to be done over the next couple of weeks. Number 2, it would have to focus on distance learning. It can't be some random thing that an administrator just says, oh yeah, I think I'll professionally develop people on. That's the second grade guardrail. Third, it can only be 1 hour in length. The third grade guardrail. And fourth, if it is in place, another professional development is put in place, it would have to take the place of the weekly 1 meeting that your administration can call. Okay? So 4 very important guardrails on professional development moving forward. But the ones that were already in place, those you must do. The one that you finished at the end of March, and the 4 that are due this Friday, April 17th. And it makes sense. When you negotiate side letters, when you're in negotiations, I've got a lot of experience with this now. When you're in negotiations, you often can't go back and just reel back in things that have already been put out and that, frankly, half of the workforce has already done. You can't just go back and reel those things in. I will say this, if there are continued technical problems with those additional professional developments you have to do before Friday, April 17th, the ones that were already on the books, if there are continued technical problems with those, we will make sure that deadline, or we'll just reach a certain point where we say that folks can't do these, okay? So that's professional development. Second, issues of grading. I've gotten many of our members and many parents reaching out and saying that they are so glad that this side letter includes the educational justice focused element of grades, meaning that a student cannot have their grade lowered in the period after March 13th, in the period of the school closures. I've had other members reach out to me and say that they're very frustrated by this, that they want to be able to lower students' grades during the school closure period. And look, I understand. I've been a teacher for 22 years. Grades are one of the ways that we keep students accountable, and frankly, one of the ways that we generate a good sense of collective accountability around what we're learning with students. I get that. I understand that very much, and I've been through that, and I've experienced it for 22 years. That said, in this unprecedented circumstance, where we know that 85% of our students across LAUSD are low-income students, even if your school doesn't have that kind of proportion, think about it. Across all of LAUSD, 85% of students are low income, meaning that they may not have access to devices. They may not have access to internet. They may not have access to a place to do hours and hours of work at home through distance learning. They have parents who are working odd hours trying to keep whatever job they can and who can't support them. In those circumstances, in the unprecedented circumstance of students trying to learn at home. It is the equitable, racial justice, and educational justice focused thing to do to say that grades cannot be lowered past March 13th, okay? Schools mean something. There's a reason that we have face-to-face contact in groups of people with schools. There's a reason that distance learning can't be the answer forever. And that reason is that equity, we serve equity and racial justice and educational justice when we can have face-to-face human contact, okay? And without that, it makes sense that our grades, we cannot lower students' grades. So I know that that's difficult. It's a difficult situation. I know it is frustrating for some, and I empathize with you, whatever side of the debate that you're on, but that is what this side letter says, and that is what we need to do. So that's grading. Third, IEPs. We are in constant communication with the district about special education. But I have to tell you, we are in a difficult circumstance with special education. In the side letter, we tried to get something in there about updating IEPs, meeting with parents about IEPs, IEP timelines, etc. The district pushed back, and frankly, they weren't wrong for pushing back because there are all sorts of federal guidelines that drive special education forward. And in this environment, when you may not be able to get in touch with parents, it can be very difficult to move things around IEP timelines, IEP adjustments, IEP updates, etc. So, but please know, every single day we are in touch with the district about what we're doing to try to support special education students. Calls this week to our national unions to press Betsy DeVos to actually set down guidelines that we can use to then further support our special education students and IEPs. That's one of the main things I'm doing this week is hammering away at the national level to get Betsy DeVos to do her job and set down clear guidance for states and districts on special education and IEPs. Number 4, co-locations were not brought up in this side letter. And the reason that charter co-locations, and the reason they weren't brought up in this side letter is because we have a different document that is guiding that. We scored a temporary victory when the district did put out its offers of space to charter schools to come and take space on district campuses. But they did something very different this year. This is where our temporary victory comes in. They said that in the end, given the unprecedented circumstances, they cannot guarantee that that space will be available for those charter schools. So we have very vigorous campaigns going right now against charter co-location, which would be not only the usual privatization problem, but layered on top of that a health and safety problem under the current circumstances, and frankly a democracy problem, because in these circumstances that we're in right now, you can't have the kind of input that you need for a school community to have about how they feel about a charter co-location. So co-locations are not in here. However, we are campaigning vigorously against them, school by school, in terms of new co-locations. And we did score a temporary victory with the district saying that no offers of district space on our schools, like Shirley Elementary, like Lizarraga Elementary, nothing is guaranteed in terms of an offer. That is a temporary victory. We keep on pushing. Fifth thing to clarify very quickly, probationary educators. They're not in this agreement because, frankly, the timeline doesn't require it. If you're a probationary 1 teacher and you were not non-reelected by March 15th, then you are going into your probationary 2 year. Okay? Let me say that again. If you're a probationary 1 teacher and you were not told by your administrator that you're not to come back next year, if you were not told that by March 15th, then you are going into your probationary 2 year next year. So you are solid for next year at your school. If you are a probationary 2 teacher, set year 2 of your probation, and you did not hear anything from your administrator in terms of a definitive non-reelect or a definitive, hey, you're not coming back, if you didn't hear anything about that by March 15th, then you are now permanent status, okay? And you can expect an assignment at your school under permanent status, okay? That's why that's not in here, is because March 15th is the key date there, and this was signed on April 8th, so no need for that. There were questions about, I'm just going through common questions that I've heard. There were questions about June 30th. The reason this agreement goes through June 30th is because the school year ends in June, okay? And so it makes sense that June 30th, the last day of June, is when this agreement ends, okay? It does not mean that we are teaching up until June 30th, okay? There were a lot of questions about that. Does not mean that. If there's any discussion about extending the school year, you will be the first to know about it from us. There have not been discussions. Okay, let me check here. Okay, I guess not. I guess we're okay. So, yeah, okay. Like back on the probationary educators, did we get through all the probationary ones? Sorry, folks. This okay. This is the thing about doing broadcasts. By the way, we have a fantastic communications department at UTLA. Pablo Serrano is the one who is the voice behind the scenes here. He's awesome. Our communications director, Anna Bacallis, all of our communications department, fantastic. Casey helps out with these broadcasts. I'll go through all of their names sometime, but the reason I had to stop there is that, and this is broadcast in the coronavirus age, right? I'm using my phone to do this broadcast, the video on my phone, but I was getting a call at the same time. So I didn't know whether that messed with it. So I'm going to back up a tiny bit. So I just went over probationary educators. Now, there were questions about June 30th, why this agreement goes through June 30th. The reason is that June is the last. June is the last of the school year, and so it makes sense that any agreement would be through June. Okay, that last month of the school year. So June 30th is the last day of June. The fact that this agreement is for June 30th does not mean that we are teaching and that school is continuing for students until June 30th. It does not mean that. Okay. If there were discussions about extending the school year, you would be the first to know. We would come and tell you that. There have not been discussions about extending the school year, all right, at this point. And if those happen, you'll be the first to know. But this agreement being signed through June 30th does not mean that you're teaching beyond the end of the year, or that students are going to school beyond the end of the year as it stands right now, the academic year, June 6th, 7th, 10th, whatever it is, okay? Next question. There have been some questions about attendance. You do not need to take attendance every day, but it does make sense, of course, to track your contacts with students. Don't do this in a way that wastes your time and takes you away from teaching students and takes you away from your own family. Don't do it in a busy work kind of way if an administrator asks you to do that. But do track your student contacts. If you were in contact with a student 2 times, 3 times, 4 times a week, make note of that. But you don't have to take attendance as if it was like a regular school day, taking attendance every single day, okay? So just a couple last things on this. Remember, if there are rogue administrators out there rogue administrators who want to give their own directives or give their own, problematic, onerous demands, or folks from local districts who want to do that, the things that they may focus on are the 240 minutes flexibly scheduled that's in this side letter. They may try to make you rigidly schedule for more than 240 minutes. Okay. The other thing that a onerous administrator might try to do is force you to use live video. Remember, this agreement, let me get some water. Remember, this agreement is very clear about 240 minutes on average, of a workday, including direct instruction, including planning, including follow-up, including grading. It's very clear about 240 minutes on average per day, flexibly scheduled by the educator, okay? It's also very clear that it is not mandated to use live video. So if you have an administrator that pushes on either of those, make sure that you ask for their directive in writing immediately and get that written piece to your chapter chair and to your area representative, okay? Those are two places where you might get pushback on this agreement, but we are on solid ground because we have this agreement. Again, that is the value of having a union. We made a binding agreement through our collective power as a union around those issues. Now, I didn't get to all the questions, but I can't use these Facebook Lives as just a way to respond to every single question. So remember, there are frequently asked question printed things on the UTLA website that we're updating every single day. So if I didn't get to your question, go and look at that, please, on the UTLA website. Second, make sure that you're in good communication with your chapter chairs, okay, about all of this. And third, make sure that your chapter chair is in good communication with your UTLA staff area representatives, okay? The staff area representatives did a training on this agreement on Thursday. So they are very steeped in the knowledge of this side letter right now, and area representatives on UTLA staff can and will help you. They are looking forward to helping you. So make sure that you're in communication with your chapter chair and your UTLA area rep staff and your UTLA area board of directors, okay? So let me end with this, and I'm gonna take a minute on this because this is very, very important. There is a next battle coming. Let me be clear about this. There is a next battle coming. We got this side letter, and we tried to hustle on negotiation for it. Okay? That is because we need to do right by our students, by our members, by public education to have something definitive in place. But the other reason that we put so much priority on getting this agreement done is because we now have to prepare for the next battle. The next battle is conversations about cuts to the education budget. You've seen the estimates of 30% unemployment, the most unemployment that we've seen since the Great Depression. All of the impacts on the economy of the coronavirus shutdown. And we need that shutdown, but of course it has an impact on the economy, and it's one of the reasons that this economy doesn't work. Doesn't work for our students, doesn't work for their families, doesn't work for the public sector, doesn't work for public sector workers like us. So there is going to be a call for education cuts. California has already moved its budget cycle. There's not going to be a May revise from the governor in all likelihood. It will be a June announcement about a workload budget, okay? Other states have already announced that they're going to be calling for big education cuts. Maryland has announced that. Ohio, New York, Tennessee, okay? There is going to be a call for education cuts, and it will include a call for layoffs in all likelihood. And I'm here to tell you, we are not going to go back to 2008. We cannot go back to 2008. I was teaching at Crenshaw High School in 2008, and with the layoffs, we lost so many of our teachers. The teacher who taught next door to me, great new teacher, we lost to layoffs. Then we took furlough days, all sorts of different things. Student programs were cut. Students were doing walkouts because they were upset about how many student programs have been cut. We cannot go back to that. Public education is too important. There is enough money in California and in the United States to not have to furlough public workers and cut programs from our most vulnerable students. There just is. California is the 5th largest economy in the world. The United States is the richest country in the history of the world. Jeff Bezos makes hundreds of thousands of dollars per minute. There is enough money in the United States and in California to prevent education cuts. We cannot go back to 2008 and those cuts. Think about that. Go back to that. Think about 2008 and how difficult that was. We cannot go back. Do you agree? We also are bargaining our health care. Remember, our health care expires in December of 2020, December of this year. We're going to be bargaining it. We cannot go to health care cuts. If anything, the coronavirus situation. So we have to be ready for the next battle, which is fighting against cuts, whether it be for layoffs or healthcare, or other education cuts that affect students. We've got to be ready for that. Now the key, and this is what I'll end with. Sorry, I should have coughed into my jacket. The key to fighting against cuts and to enforcing this MOU is building structure at every single one of our work sites. And it's happening differently now because of this crisis. But I want to say that again, and everybody should stay on and listen to this. The key to fighting to protect our healthcare, fighting against layoffs, fighting against cuts, and the key to implementing this MOU with fidelity is building structure at our school sites. And there are 10 points to building structure, and we will write these up for you. There are 10 simple steps you take to build strong structure. Number 1, have your chapter chair elections. Our secretary, Arlene Inoue, will be getting information out as usual. Usually it comes out in the United Teacher. We're going to get it out through other methods now about how to do your chapter chair elections in a virtual world. Okay, so that's number 1. Do your chapter chair elections before the end of this year. Make sure you have a chapter chair in place, a UTLA chapter chair in place, ready to fight. Okay. Number 2, build your chapter action team. No chapter chair can do all of the work alone, especially in this environment. So whether you are building your chapter action team by having one union representative on each grade level, which is what a lot of elementary schools do, or one union representative in each department, which is what a lot of secondary schools do, or some other method, you've got to have a 1 leader members structure. 1 leader for every 10 members. If I've got 80 UTLA members at my school site, I need 8 leaders to have divided those folks up into groups of 10 to be getting them constant information about what the union is doing and constant feedback from those 10 about ideas about what the union should be doing. Okay? So do that this year. Do that as part of your chapter chair elections. Get your chapter action team in place as well. That's number 2. Number 3, study this MOU. Study it. Do a study session on it with your chapter action team. Every school has somebody who's very good at technology, who can set up those Zoom calls. Okay, if the chapter chair can't do it, have somebody else do it. Have it be contribution to the action team so that everybody is enforcing it and not just one person, the chapter chair, is enforcing it. Number 4, have weekly chapter meetings of your union chapter, of your UTLA chapter. Again, more important now than ever to have those weekly chapter meetings. And again, there's someone on each campus who's really good with technology, who can help with the Zoom, who can help people out and set these meetings up. Crucial that you do that. So number 4 is have weekly chapter meetings. Number 5, have bi-weekly meetings every other week with your chapter action team. If I'm at a school of 35 teachers, an elementary school, 35 educators and health and human service folks, then I've got a chapter chair, and then I've probably got 4 other leaders who are helping me with the 8 or 9 or 10 folks that they're in touch with every single day or every single week. Get that group of the chapter chair plus those 4 CAT leaders, get together every 2 weeks to go over how is our administration doing at implementing this? What do we need to do to get ready to fight against layoffs? Okay, fight against cuts to healthcare. So that's number 5. Meetings every other week of your chapter action team. Number 6, chapter chairs. have a regular weekly meeting with your principal. Again, it's different in virtual world. It can be a phone call. It can be a Zoom call. Chapter chairs, if you want to take another person in, your co-chair or someone else from your CAT team, then do that. But it should be a regular weekly meeting with your principal about any problems that are coming up in implementing this MOU, whatever. So that's number 7, regular meeting with your principal. Number 8, make sure your chapter team, your chapter chair and your chapter team knows your UTLA area rep on staff, okay? Whoever our staff person is, who works with the turf of the city, that is the chapter team knows that staff person. Let's see, which one am I on now? Number 8, I'll call it number 8. Number 8 is make sure also that your chapter chair and your chapter action team know your area director. Each area, whether it's Valley West, Harbor, East, or West, each area has 4 elected directors. Make sure that your chapter chair and your contract action team, your chapter action team, your CAT, knows who your area directors are. They're going to be of assistance to you on side letter related things and on budget cut related things. Number 9, these are the 10 things you need to do to build a strong structure for implementing the side letter and against layoffs and healthcare cuts. Number 9, use your UTLA faculty meeting times. Every time your administrator has a faculty meeting, and remember, this side letter says it can only be once a week for an hour during regular working hours. Every time there is a faculty meeting, use your UTLA time. Just because you're on Zoom doesn't mean you shouldn't use your UTLA time. You should demand it and you should use it. On structure, and by the way, every virtual faculty meeting you have everybody wear red. That's why I'm wearing red, to remind you. I'm wearing red on a Monday to remind you to wear it on Tuesday in your virtual faculty meetings. And finally, number 10, for the structure that we need is make sure that your chapter chair or a representative is going to each area meeting. There are special area meetings this week, the week of April 13th, to answer questions about the side letter. And then there is another area meeting on Wednesday, April 29th. It will be crucial because we'll be going more into the side letter and healthcare cuts, okay? So make sure that your chapter chair and their team are going to the area meetings, okay? Now remember, chapter chairs cannot do this alone. We have so many wonderful chapter chairs, fantastic chapter chairs, okay? But they can't do it alone. So make sure you're talking to your chapter chair about, hey, what can I do to help with the 10 elements of building a strong structure at our school, okay? So I'm going to end with that. I wanted to go through that because it is so important. This doesn't happen just because it's written down. It happens because you have the structure to enforce it. We're going to help you with that. So I'll end with this. We support you. We love you, whether you're students, whether you are youth, whether you are parents who are struggling during this time, whether you are our fantastic UTLA members, teachers, health and human service workers at all levels in all job categories. We love you. We got this side letter because we want education to continue to be a human-based, humanity-based process. This side letter helps us with that. And like I said, we've got to get ready to keep the humanity in public education by fighting against healthcare cuts and job cuts and layoffs and things like that. Our students need us. Public education needs us. We love you. We support you. Take great care. And I will be back, I believe, on Friday with another Facebook Live for a round out to the week. Have a great week, everybody. Take care.